Did you know there was a time when a single company ruled over more people than most countries? Back in the 18th century, the British East India Company wasn't just a business. It collected taxes, controlled major trade routes, and even negotiated treaties with foreign powers. And get this, it had its own private army. At its absolute peak, this one company governed millions of people across the Indian subcontinent. It made the laws, enforced its own version of order, and completely shaped the economy. But here's the kicker. It didn't answer to voters or citizens. It answered to shareholders. Profit wasn't just a goal, it was the entire objective. The company's decisions led to devastating wars, famines, and a massive transfer of wealth out of the region. Entire cultures were reshaped, not by a nation, but by corporate strategy. We often talk about the dangers of government power, but history shows us that sometimes the most powerful empires weren't nations at all. They were companies.
You might think that the Dutch East India Trading Company was just about spices and trade, and you'd be wrong. Life under the VOC was a sentence without mercy. It was built on the backs of slavery, torture, and human suffering on a global scale. The VOC, founded in 1602, wasn't just the first multinational corporation. It was a corporate empire with its own army, navy, and legal right to wage war. And when the VOC collapsed in 1799, the Dutch state took over, keeping slavery into the mid-19th century. Even after so-called emancipation, former enslaved peoples were forced into apprenticeships that were entirely unpaid, keeping them under the thumb. The VOC's legacy isn't just in history books today. It's in the cultures that it shattered, the communities it displaced, and the inequality that still lingers today.
So don't ask whether you like this system, ask whether you understand it, because history doesn't care about your preferences. It only recognizes power. Code moves first, law follows. It always has. The only question is this: when the system finishes rerouting itself, where are you standing?
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window.
Let's stop pretending. This system does not care what you believe. It does not care how you vote. It does not care what the law says you are entitled to. It only cares about who can move first. Power already moved. Capital already moved. Decisions were already made. What you're watching now is not policy being debated. It's paperwork catching up to reality. Democracy didn't protect you. It slowed things down until it couldn't anymore. The republic didn't disappear. It was skipped. Because when time matters, consent is a luxury. And when outcomes matter, rights become negotiable. You can argue about intentions. You can argue about politics. You can argue about who this helps, but none of that changes the rule. Code moves first. Law follows. And if you're waiting for the law to save you, my friend, you're already late.
And his answer began with the greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true.